When dealing with teams, you often have to make the most out of what you have. But what if you didn't? What if you could draft the perfect team with the perfect skills? What skills are you looking for and why? On this week's edition of Imperfect, Better After Broken, we're going to tip our cap to the NFL draft that's going on all weekend. And we're going to take a look at what skills you would look for if you could draft your perfect team members.
It's time to figure out what our dream team looks like. That came to mind. First of all, the color of the year is lemon yellow. Thank you, Eagles. I'm so excited about that.
Did you see the video for that? I was like watching his family on the phone with Pittsburgh. And then the next thing you know, the Eagles were like, whoop. They literally pulled the Philly special in the draft.
In the draft. So the poor Steelers. I mean, how humiliating does that have to be?
Yeah. Unbelievable.
That happens as leaders sometimes. We've got our money man, we've got our idea of how it's going to work, and number 20 comes up, and then boom, you got to shift and pivot. So agility is going to be one of those leadership draft picks that we need to be thinking about.
Very happy with the Giants pick at number 5. I think Arvell is a great pick. The lineman they grabbed out of Miami at number 10 is a good addition. Wouldn't have been my first choice, but as I told my friend Andy, who's my Giants football texting buddy, there's a reason that those guys are doing that job and I'm doing this job. So I'm going to hit the I believe button and hope that they get it right. I think the world of Coach Harbaugh. And so if he thinks that's the guy, then fingers crossed that, oh my God, I'm just tired of them losing. So I hope they get it right.
May this be the year.
Please. I mean, not to make light of this, but I almost feel like I'm in an abusive relationship with the Giants at this point, right? Like I can't even enjoy the games. It's like my hopes get up, and then in the third quarter, I'll look at my wife or my son and be like, this is where they blow it. And lo and behold, they do. God, I want them to be successful and to do well. I think they have a lot of the good pieces. I'm excited about what they had last year. So hopefully they can build on it this year.
I'm excited to see some complex, blitz schemes this year to make use of this exciting addition. Draft, really, that's about the choices you make on who is going to sit in what position on your team. For today's Imperfect, Better After Broken, I'm excited for us to talk about the possibilities of how we as leaders can use a draft mentality to get the right people in the right place to maximize their gifts. This is Imperfect, Better After Broken, the show where we celebrate the cracks,
the scars, and the stories. See, here we go. We're going with it. We're consuming the thing as we go. I love it.
That's it. That's why it takes a team. That was an audible right there. Thank you for picking up the ball. I'm Susan Hendrich.
And I'm Jeff Servello.
Drafting your dream team with your leadership choices. So not just have to make the most of what you have, but really select the skills that you're looking for. Tell me about the skills you're looking for when you are building your dream leadership team.
You want fit. You're looking for people who can fit into the culture. You'll hear general managers and coaches talk about fitting into your scheme. And think about this from a perspective of not just the NFL draft or a sports draft, but when you're hiring to replace somebody, new headcount, replacement headcount, technical skills are important. But on the flip side too, like there's a cultural element that goes into this.
Big time.
You could have the greatest player in the world, the most talented player in the world, but if they don't fit into your scheme, they don't work and complement your other teammates, that could be subtraction by addition. You could make the team weaker by hiring the wrong fit. You can sit here and look at all the things 40 times. How much can they bench press 225? How good are they at PowerPoint? What's their Excel ability in terms of spreadsheet ninjaing and all that stuff? But does it fit into the scheme? Does it work with the team? That to me is why I like this exercise in terms of both from a professional standpoint, why I think hiring folks is great. It also makes the draft so exciting.
How important it is as the leader of a team, if you're building leaders, to be clear about what your strategy is. If you're bringing in a bunch of wide receivers, that signals what the game is going to look like. But if you don't have that conversation with your offensive coordinator, you might be hiring all the great people, but not really setting up the plays that you need to succeed. So if we were general manager and could step into that role just for the day, draft the perfect team, not the perfect people, the perfect traits. I very much agree with your point. Skills can be taught. Technical prowess can be practiced and learned, but character, inherent traits, skills, gifts, chemistry on the team. I was upset at first when AJ Brown moved on. Sorry, it's got to be all about the Eagles, but okay. but when it comes to chemistry, I'm just really curious about how that's going to change the makeup on the of the team. So high performance teams, Jeff, are rarely built on flawless resumes. They're built on trust, adaptability, accountability, emotional steadiness, and people who make others better. I'm excited to hear more about your draft list of dream traits.
My first pick off the board, I want somebody who indexes high in accountability. We've talked about it several times on the show, right? That hand up accountability. Somebody who is going to own the outcomes without excuses. The person who you can count on, the proverbial man in the arena. To quote President Roosevelt, I'm looking up here because I have a copy of the quote, Man of the Arena. It's one of my favorite things I learned as a plebe at the Naval Academy. It's not the critic who counts or the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or how the doer of deeds could have done him better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena. So I want somebody who's going to be in the arena, who's going to give their best, and is going to grow and support their team. So that's my first choice, is accountability.
It's a good one. Without it, we have a difficult time creating a culture of trust. If blame is easily passed and not quickly accepted, when things go wrong, it creates a sense of fear. But also when things go right, the highly accountable person is going to be the one who looks at the role everyone on that team plays. Jahad Campbell, first round pick. I am interested to see how the chemistry changes when it comes to accountability and emotional maturity. I think that is one of my top picks for leadership traits, is emotional maturity. Somebody who can take the hit and bounce and not let ego get in the way of how they get right back out on the field. Emotional maturity allows us to be have neuroplasticity when things go wrong, and really put things into context and recognize that first arrow is the mistake that's made, or the bad call, or whatever it is that we're frustrated by. But that second arrow, that is a whole new play that you have choices. So hopeful to see some emotional maturity as teams gel with their new players in this next season.
How do you judge that ahead of time, or even in the moment? From your perspective as a leader, and in all the work you've done and in the organizations you've been a part of, how do you assess somebody's emotional maturity?
In an interview situation, I'm always curious to hear the answer to the question, tell me about a project that didn't go as you expected. And the reason I ask that question is not because I want to see how people stumble or fall, though, how you get back up again when you fall is important information. But what I want to know is the person's sense of connectedness to the team rising and falling together. Great leaders will take accountability for mistakes or things that don't go perfectly as planned. And they will also allow the celebrations to really highlight their team. So it's a strange phenomenon. The higher you go in an organization, the fewer accolades you're going to get, and the more you're going to be responsible for giving those accolades. That emotional maturity element can be measured by the story someone tells about how they respond when things don't go well.
I was thinking of some folks who probably are in the spotlight that don't have emotional maturity, and you hear a lot of I's, a lot of me's, but not in a good way. It's about what they did and how they weren't to blame.
Victim mindset, victim mentality to me is the opposite of emotional maturity. We all are victims of something, things that don't go right, the guy that cuts us off driving down the road, the promotion that we hope to get and doesn't happen. But when we dwell in the frustration, it brings me back to that visual that is super powerful for me. If you get bitten by a snake in the forest, do not waste your time running after the snake to chase it and make it apologize for having done. Tend to the wound, move on, and protect yourself in the future. So stay out of that victim mindset. I'm going to clock in with my absolute overall number one pick, though. That is self-awareness.
Ooh.
And Jeff, you have it in spades. So I want to brag on you just for a minute. I think there are a lot of talented people out there who lack self-awareness, and they end up creating chaos because they're not aware of how they're showing up impacts other people. But people who know their impact, who understand their triggers and can name those triggers and adjust in real time, become force multipliers. Example, you know what? I'm getting activated right now. This is a hot button for me. I need to step back for a second. Give me a moment. That can create stress for others in the room as someone kind of names it, but so much less stress than if they just check out or start, yelling at people. So to be able to know your hot buttons and take control of them through self-awareness is the key to being able to have that emotional regulation and maturity that we're looking for.
First of all, thank you for recognizing the work that I've done to develop that. I have not always been self-aware. For a long time, I felt like, and I know I coach many leaders who feel like they're dancing with two left feet and are stepping on other people's toes. As you go through levels of comfort in your career and are placed in different situations, I think it's going to require different levels of self-awareness. What it's like to perform in one stage or on one arena is going to be completely different than what it is to perform in a different arena. And I'll give you an example outside of sports. I went to see Eric Church in concert 2 weeks ago. Eric Church is known for moving around the stage, but he had broke his foot 2 nights before. And so he was in a boot, changed the way he played. I'll give you even better example. Dave Grohl, when he broke his leg and he built the throne of guitars, he found a way to adapt. He knew who he was as a performer, and he found a way to still be able to bring that high energy in a way that was accounted for his condition and was self-aware. So it's self-awareness of knowing where you are in time and space is really important.
Your constitution, knowing your core values, what you're made up of, but being able to optimize for your circumstances, your context, that is a wonderful combination. It's not enough to just know who you are in ideal circumstances when everything's great and you're able to thrive. It's that agility to meet your moment. One of the most powerful self-awareness illustrations ever. Remember the movie Pretty Woman?
Yes.
Richard Gere. He talks about his self-awareness of his feelings toward his father. And he says, I was very angry with him. It cost me $10,000 in therapy to say that sentence. I was very angry with him. Once you get self-awareness, we tend to claim it and kind of feel proud. But you look back on times in your life, I'll do that right now, thinking of when I wasn't self-aware of how I showed up. And I just shake my head. It's like looking back at your old PowerPoints and how bad they are. You in the moment, you think you're showing up great and you think you got to puff up to be strong and show your power, your moxie in the moment. And it's usually those times when you feel yourself needing to puff up that you need to actually sit down and look inward and say, okay, self-awareness, what am I missing about myself in this moment?
Self-awareness is very three-dimensional, very in the moment, forward-looking and reflective at the same time, and it requires us to do all three very quickly to be current. So my next one, I have compartmentalization, and I know that's kind of a weird one. You rarely get the time to transition between tasks. So as you're task switching, how good are you at putting a stopper on that jar and moving on to the next jar? And I think of all the times I got it wrong, where whatever it was that had things bled over from one event to the next event to the next event. And And so I think the ability to compartmentalize so that you are giving people their due moment instead of allowing lingering effects from a previous interaction to color that moment is incredibly important. Tiger Woods would say he would give himself 7 steps. Whether he hit a great shot or a bad shot, he had 7 steps as he was walking to his next shot to either lament the shot or celebrate the shot, and then it was on to the next thing. The ability to cloister off events and then revisit them in their due time, but not allow them to spill over and cloud your decision making and your focus as you move to the next event.
Excellent definition. Not restrain. So you still have it contained inside the confines of your morning. You'll process that later, or you will deal with that person when you get with them, rather than in psychology, this defense mechanism is called displacement, also known as kicking the dog, which I hate that metaphor, but it's a very powerful one. That often the upset that we receive from someone else really has nothing to do with us. If you read Don Miguel Ruiz's book, The Four Agreements, nothing anyone does has anything to do with you. It's about what they're dealing with. But displacement is about putting your stuff or your beef that you have with someone else onto the person that's in front of you, or even on displacing sometimes onto yourself, which is called retroflexion, where you internalize upset that somebody else sprayed at you, and then you kind of beat yourself up. That displacement or that lack of compartmentalization creates a spillage that really upsets the village. So that was so lame. I cannot believe I just used that rhyming.
That's all right though, right? It's spilling over, and the people who are in that area, who are part of your tribe, are going to have to deal with that mess with you. It's not just your mess. You now, by spilling it, have made it their problem as well.
Yes. Interesting studies have come out on road rage. Almost every time there's a road rage incident, there are other factors contextually surrounding what happened in that moment. Well, she cut me off, or he brake checked me, or all these reasons. Yes, of course, those are contributing circumstances. But when you go out, the ripple effect, or what happened that morning, or what else is going on in that person's life, invariably, it's not just an anger management problem. There's some displacement of something else that has happened. So I like compartmentalization. I'm going to throw out one.
Okay.
One of my leadership traits that I look for is coachability. Coachability says something about the pliancy or the ability to be impacted by the other. Not that I think I have all that much brilliance to offer anybody when it comes to coaching them, but we all should be coaching each other and ourselves. And if one is not coachable and they become rigid or defensive when someone offers them a question to help them reflect or feel better, then we're not really moving as a dynamic unit forward, where this is who I am and I'm not going to change. That's a red flag for me that someone might not do well in a team environment if they don't demonstrate coachability.
I like that, but I want to ask you a question about it. So number 4 for me was growth mindset. Coachability and growth mindset seem kind of similar. How do you see them? Are they the same? Are they different? And if they are different, what's different about them?
Cool. Growth mindset. I have a friend, Ty Sparks, who has a podcast called Growth Mindset of a Champion. He was a big time tennis champion in Kentucky. And he talks about growth mindset as something where you are constantly, intentionally, proactively looking for ways to get better. So I love that. I love that definition of growth mindset, looking for ways to get better. Whereas coachability is more about receptivity to someone else helping you to get better. The coachability factor starts with yourself. How much time do you spend during the day saying kind things to yourself about picking up and moving forward and trying again? If your inner voice were a coach, is that coach someone that helps you win or tears you down? So when I look at growth mindset versus coachability. Growth mindset is something intentional and willingness to self-examine and look to be better. Whereas I see coachability as something in terms of turning on that growth mindset when someone from the outside offers you opportunity to grow. What do you think?
For me, growth mindset is very internal. It's very self-activated, whereas coachability is very externally activated. How am I responding to an external stimulus versus am I even looking for an internal stimulus to be better?
Internal versus external, very, very simple way to look at it. You have a growth mindset. Here's an example of a time I saw you demonstrate. Can I
Sure.
share a story about you?
Appreciate
So growth
that.
mindset, we were chatting about how to handle lots of change. How should you approach that? And there was a really good conversation about how it's important to speak up and it's important to shape the organization and ensure that your leaders know what your thoughts are. And I believe all of that. And I think you do as well. And you offered a different perspective. Instead of saying, I don't agree with it, you said, you know what, let me offer an additional perspective. That's an and mindset where you came in and you said, sometimes a leader is coming to you with pressure that they're receiving and it's rolling toward them and they're trying to mitigate it, but we have to get the mission completed. Sometimes you've got to choose your chips wisely of when you're going to speak up. It's not always the best time. And so in that, we had a really nice debate. You, instead of coming with, here's my opinion and here's why it's right, you said, you know what, I can kind of see both sides of things. And I'm glad we're having this conversation. That's a growth mindset, the willingness to be influenced by other possibilities, not necessarily have your mind changed every time, but the willingness to entertain the possibility of other perspectives.
I appreciate that. You've helped me with that immensely. And I encourage people, keep an open mind. What's the worst that happens? You learn something. Explore, listen to other people, let them shape your perspective. Best case, you learn something. Worst case, you learn something. Or I guess actually the worst case would probably be you ruin the opportunity to learn something because you're dug in on an issue that maybe you don't need to be dug in on.
The smartest person in the room is the one who realizes they aren't.
Yeah, that's a lot of us could learn from that, right?
Me too. I mean, my arrogance and my ego get in my way. Do not mistake that sometimes. But if I realize that I have something to learn from every single person that I encounter, even if I maybe have more experience or more, on paper, more skills, having that humble mindset of somebody else might offer something that could be game changing is powerful form of coachability. Okay,
your turn.
Let's go for it. But I believe in the power of reliability. Can I count on Jeff if he says he's going to do something that he gets it done? You are the first person when we have to review stuff together, or we're looking at, as a team at creating a document or a vision statement, you are the first one to get things done. You're not always going to be that. Certainly don't expect that as your colleague, but I know that if a request comes out to get some input, I'm going to get input and collegial thought leadership from Jeff. I appreciate that reliability because it makes me feel safe that if something needs to get done, you're going to show up. Even if you have totally different ideas or you think the whole idea is ridiculous, you're going to be there to be part of the story.
Yeah, I like that, right? Reliability, the way you're just describing it, I'm hearing really an underlying current of trust and psychological safety. Yes. Are you going to be there when I ask for help? Are you going to be there when I need you to be there? And from a team perspective, that's so critically important. We talked a little bit about social cohesion and understanding who people are and how that benefits task cohesion. Really, it's about trust. Do I trust that you're going to partner with me? Not do I trust that you're going to agree with me? Are you going to be where you said you were going to be when you said you were going to be there? Are you a reliable partner? Or are you going to leave me with the bag in my hand? Where's the getaway driver? Or are you going to be out front of the bank as I come out with the bags? You want a reliable getaway driver.
People get to make mistakes. That reliability over time, that in general, this person is going to be consistent and showing up really matters. I got to work with Scott O'Neill. He used to be the owner of Philadelphia 76ers. And he wrote a book called Be Where Your Feet Are. So you'll hear me say that. I borrowed that from him all the time. Be present where your feet are. That's a form of reliability. If someone shows up to a meeting and they're technically in the room, or this can apply to couples therapy as well, if they are technically with you at the event, but scrolling or looking off to the side throughout the meeting, demonstrating anywhere but here kind of energy, that is not reliability. That is performative showing up, but not actual energy showing up. I would rather you say, you know what, I'm really not into this game. Can we do it some other time? Than force yourself to be there and not really be there. If reliability is as much a form of spirit as it is a form of body activity.
Can I disagree with you slightly?
Please.
I'm going to go back to my previous one of compartmentalization. What if I can't compartmentalize and I'm trying hard to be there? I want to be there. I'm trying to be reliable. I'm trying to honor what you offered, but I am struggling because I have poor compartmentalization, or I am allowing other things to bleed in. Do I get an A for effort there?
Yes.
Or is it, you know what I mean? Like, I think that to your point about the person who's distracted, the person who's not fully present, I get your point. That makes a lot of sense to me, right? You want to be present. But I also think that sometimes people try and they just don't know, and then it's being held against them. Is it better than say, I'm not ready to do this right now, I can't be fully here, and not show up? Or is it better to try to white knuckle your way through it? So I don't know. When you said that, I kind of, maybe it's just because sometimes I have a hard time compartmentalizing, and so I'm trying to find a justification for myself. But what are your thoughts about that when you can't fully wall off the previous thing, but you're trying to be there, but as a result, you are not being reliable, so to speak?
You just demonstrated something. Number one, always for me, will be someone who is brave enough to build trust with me enough to disagree. That is just makes me feel so great, because I know that I'm going to get their real thinking and that we're going to have a good, healthy debate, and we're both going to come out better on the other side. I'm grateful that you trust me to say, I think that's, I bristle at what you just said. I don't like the idea of if you can't be where your feet are, don't be there. The A for effort is always going to come if the person is upfront about being distracted or struggling to compartmentalize. And that doesn't mean that in the moment you have to say, I'm distracted in this moment. You don't always have to confess in that moment. But if I know that you honest with me that they're going through a difficult time, or I know that in general they're kind of coming along to the games, but they really are distracted, that's awesome. I'm so great with that, and I so appreciate the A for effort that you're trying to be there. I'm talking about the false nod, like trying to show that you're there when you really aren't. What I prefer is the genuineness of saying, and you did this with me the other day. You're like, forgive me, I've got I'm thinking about something that happened earlier and it's still in my mind. I am so cool with that. It's about the authenticity of the relationship, not necessarily that one interaction. Everybody gets distracted sometimes, but in general, do I believe that you're there and trying your best to be connected?
I love the distinction with the authenticity. I think we've all had that experience with somebody who's like, I want feedback. And then when you give the feedback, they come off the top rope like Jimmy Superfly Snuka, right? And they hit you with the steel chair, and it's just, I thought you wanted feedback. Like, no, right?
Yes, indeed. We've all been in situations, or maybe we've been guilty of, I've been guilty of, where someone is talking to us and we are trying so hard to stay connected, but the NFL draft, my pick is coming up and I want to watch. And so they're talking and they're saying, whatever they're trying to say. And, and I just killed somebody in the street. That's great, honey. Like you're not really there and listening. That's the humanness in all of us.
So my next one, I think, is agility. Whether it's who moved my cheese or just being able to recognize that the sands are shifting, a good leader needs to be able to recognize when the environment has changed to adapt to it. We've talked about this multiple times. We can all hearken back to the good old days, but If you're not paying attention to the current days, the good old days are going to get you run over. You need to be able to bounce, recognize trends, and adjust on the fly so that you can meet the moment, as opposed to being stuck in previously held assumptions. Or
you teach a tool to self-examine about this. If you hear yourself saying, we've always done it that way, that's my Servello sign to say, I might be digging in and not demonstrating agility. How do you know if you are being called to be agile?
If you feel a resistance that doesn't make sense. I think an example of that is if you're asked to do something different and you have an allergic reaction to it and you can't readily offer why you shouldn't do that thing. It's not, I don't want to do it, we've always done it this other way. If you can't say, if we do X, Y is going to happen, and that doesn't contribute to our mission, whether it's the company's mission statement, the bottom line, whatever the outcomes of the company are that you're driving to, it doesn't help our strategy, then you probably need to demonstrate some agility, and you probably are up against a mental barrier.
We don't fear change. We fear loss. We actually enjoy change. Oh, a new TV show or new packaging on our toothpaste, whatever. It's not the change itself that we fear. It's the loss. Oh, I won't have my favorite show to watch and I've gotten to know these characters. Or this new toothpaste, is it still going to, make my teeth nice and white? It's the loss that we fear and the sense of the unknown. So if you start to bristle at the winds of change, or if you find yourself being defensive, if you can ask yourself the question, what do I stand to lose that I'm feeling worried about? Certainty in the relationship, control over my schedule, relevance and meaning in my career. It's those things that you hold dear that you stand to lose that become the challenge point for dealing with agility.
Being able to self-examine what's happening for you. The other thing I would offer to that is taking an examination of, are you bristling at it because it counteracts your values? But sometimes we have a deep-seated aversion to something, and it's important to recognize, is it a fear of change? And if it's not a fear of change, then I think the next step is, if I'm comfortable with this change, then maybe I'm not comfortable with the motive behind the change. Maybe there's something about that is bothering me at a core level. And I just tell people, right, know what you're willing to get fired for.
Wow.
Like, what's the hill you're willing to die on? We need to do this. Okay, it's not what I want to do, but I'll work Saturday to fix that thing. Versus, hey, I want you to take everyone's desk chairs away from them because by sitting they're less productive. And you're like, that's inhumane. I don't want to do that. There's things that are, okay, that's not the way I would do it. And then there's things that are like, that's unethical. We shouldn't do that. That's immoral. I won't do that.
I'm going to start using that in my coaching discussions. I'm going to start with myself. Self-examine, where are your values in this conversation? And I was going to share that the reason I think humility is important for ideal leadership traits is not because I don't like people who have confidence or big egos. In fact, I look for ego and confidence in people I want on my team, because I want people who stand in their light and know what they bring and offer. Humility to me is about recognizing that you're not the only one with gifts, or that you're not always going to have those gifts. So you can be 90% of the time dancing in the end zone and having lots of confidence, but being able to distinguish when it's time to step back and let someone else be right, or let someone else have their moment, and also recognizing that we're part of a delicate ecosystem that requires oxygen for everyone. That to me, that humility really makes for a high performance team.
Yeah. You know what I like about all these different traits that you and I are throwing out is that each of them complements and magnifies the impacts of the other ones. Someone with a growth mindset who's accountable is going to help the people around him. The person who is humble but has emotional regulation and reliability is going to recognize the impact they have on those around them, so that they don't have to be the superstar. It's more about the touchdown dance and getting on Instagram than it is about the team winning. Hey, the team won, yeah, but I only got one catch. I didn't get my yards. And so I just think that that's interesting. Is it about the individual winning, or is it about the team winning? And if it's truly about the team winning, then are you willing to do whatever it takes to make the team successful, or are you more worried about the success of your individual brand?
I was crazy about Terrell Owens and his athletic capabilities and his ability in the moment to make great decisions and just be untouchable. But his ego and his inability to allow the win for the team to be enough, I couldn't handle that. I need to be around people who are there for the collective win. It's hard to do that when you have a lot of skill and you like to win, especially if competitive is one of your Gallup strengths, one of your strengths finder strengths. I think being competitive is really, really powerful, and it can be a force multiplier for everyone. You always want to play tennis against somebody who's, or we've talked about this with golf. You want to play somebody who's better than you, not too much better, but just enough that you strive to be better. But if you can't allow for somebody else's success in your equation of what a great day feels like, that's a sign that you might be in a deficit mindset for your own skills and strengths. And try to look for the collective win. We rise by lifting others, as Brene Brown says, or who was it that said, a rising tide lifts all ships.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. Let me see real quick. Couple other ones I have, and then I'll ask you to share one or two more of yours, and then we'll put in the comments section our full list, just because I want to get to our question of the week as well.
Cool.
I had humanity. Another one I had was faith. I like a person of faith as a leader, because that they have values, that that there is something that it's almost, maybe there's a level of optimism to that, that it's not all doom and gloom, that they believe in a higher value or a higher power that is going to help them to process and keep going. How about you?
Communication is really important. The willingness to ask yourself the question in any given moment, who else needs to know? Everybody says, what's wrong? What do we need more of on the team? Well, we need more communication. We don't need more volume of communication. We need more quality, so that the right people have the right information at the right time to make the right decisions. When it goes wrong, it's usually because someone didn't ask themselves, who else needs to know? Yeah. Communication's a big one for me.
The ability to deliver the message so that it reaches people. And that may require you to adjust how the delivery of the message, but being able to storytell, being able to connect with your people, so that when you answer the question, who else needs to know, you're able to give it to them in a way that it resonates with them, so they understand their role in helping to execute whatever the plan is.
Meet people where they are.
I think it speaks to a leader's ability to inspire.
The definition of inspire that someone once gave me. Inspire, if you take apart the word, means to infuse with spirit, going in and finding the other person's spirit and lighting it aflame. I think that's really special.
Incredible. I've never heard that before. I really like that. So our listener question comes from a listener in good old Orlando, Florida. Said, hey, I have teammates who are eager to learn and to grow. How can I help my teammates grow and expand their skills? And what programs or skill sets might be helpful? The ability to communicate effectively is a lost skill or an underdeveloped skill in many leaders. So I love programs like Toastmasters. Public speaking courses are really powerful. The coaching program that I did, the imPERFECT coaching program, to be incredibly rewarding. It created a heightened sense of awareness in who I am, but it also really uncovered for me just how flawed my definition of active listening was. Like, I thought my definition of active listening, right? I was like, this is like verbal judo, right? We're throwing words around. We're in it together. The resilience building leadership professionals definition of it, where you're listening to understand without prejudgment, is a much better answer. So I would say Toastmasters, a coaching program. I'm biased because I am a training partner of theirs, but I think that RBLP's leadership certifications really teach a lot about connecting with people, inspiring people, and communicating effectively, and how the ability to build those relationships helps teams. I think are all really, really good places to start. How about you?
I love that you've invested in resilience-based leadership. When I hear a leader say they want to help develop their people, I have three key elements in mind. You've heard this as 70-20-10, experience, exposure, and education. Education is a formal learning class, and that's fantastic. I'm hooked on imPERFECT, and I'm going through it now. I can't believe how much I didn't know about coaching, which is exciting to me because, just when you think you're an old salt with the answers, no, darling, you don't know it all. Formal education, I think, is great. Toastmasters, any of those types of experiences where there is a formal opportunity to learn something. But in addition to formal education, there's exposure. Let me tag along with you. There's something about being a kid and riding in a cop car on purpose that is so exciting.
Great distinction. Great
distinction there. But because you get exposed to what life is like. Can I put the lights on?
Yeah.
When I would go into my dad's lab as a kid, and he'd give me different color liquids to mix together and make things happen. The exposure to what it's like demonstrating a skill is really great. So find your mentors and then attach yourself to them. Hey, could I sit in with you on a workshop that you're delivering so I can learn from you? That exposure is amazing.
Yeah.
And then experience itself. There's no teacher like experience, and you never learn something better than when you have to teach it. All three of those, education, exposure, and experience, there is no lack of access to information now. The leader of today is the one who can curate the best, not who can access the best. We all can get HBR articles right now online, whether we paid for them or not. There's stuff is circulating out there. It's about finding the people, the experiences, and the processes that help activate your highest purpose. So that's what I would recommend, is go in with your teammates, find out what they love and what they want to be about, have them articulate what they're looking for, and the universe will take care of education, experience, and exposure to help them win.
It requires the leader to actually take an interest in the person. So see what your teammates are interested in. Maybe it's an improv class, maybe it's a welding class, but find a way to make the connection to whatever it is that their job is, and how that helps them do their job better and help them make meaning of it. I think that's fantastic. So how do we tie this all back to Kintsugi?
I appreciate our Orlando person's question, because they are coming to us with a growth mindset about their team members that are coming with a growth mindset. If we cry when something breaks and we don't learn from it and do something about it, we've lost twice. I love Nelson Mandela's approach. I never lose. I either win or I learn. So having Kintsugi mindset to say, I'm either going to win by putting it back together and making it beautiful, or learn, hey, don't put that bowl on that shelf next time, Susan, with 4 cats in the house. Kintsugi is all about getting back up again. Take the hit and bounce. That's what we're looking for in the draft for the NFL, is those players that can get right back out on the field and not only cheer themselves up, but cheer on their teammates. That's Kintsugi when it comes to getting back out there. How about for you?
Think about your first draft pick, self-awareness, understanding who you are, where you are, what you bring and what you offer, and where you think your deficits and opportunities are. Doing the same thing for your team, assessing the cracked pieces of the bowl to figure out which ones could be mended and which ones may need to be filled. Assembling those pieces, recognizing, okay, these are the pieces I have, this is what I need to fill, going from there. So the self-awareness to conduct that assessment, to say, I'm really good at this, I'm not so good at that. This is helping me. This is not helping me as much. Coming up with something to do differently. It sets the stage for you to really begin the repair process. Do I want to add more cowbell, or do I have enough cowbell and maybe I'm going to add some drums, right? And so that then leads to the repair process. How does that kick into the repair process for you?
Test and learn, test and learn. Try the outfit and it doesn't work, go back and try again. The repair piece, I believe that recognizing opportunities for growth is not weakness, it is maturity, and deciding what gets repaired, the version of you that was underprepared, or the habits that used to limit you, or the confidence that you had that was shaken by a mistake, an embarrassing moment. If you can embrace that and incorporate that into your story, you become a more accessible and powerful change maker. And by doing that, kintsugi, repair, incorporation of the broken parts, what gets revealed is the next version of you, stronger, wiser, more ready, more steady, more capable. Here's a challenge for our listener. Pick your top 5 draftable leadership skills. Rate yourself from, say, 1 to 10 in those. Choose your lowest score, not to shame yourself, but to invest in yourself. And then match that lowest score, like you were saying earlier, Jeff, with a skill that you already have, because it is your best skills that will help you with the things you want to develop. And the next great pick in your leadership journey might just be yourself.
Let's see if Copilot's going to work for us. I threw in our draft pick, and I asked them to say, with the draft pick that we came up with, which leader most is represented by the attributes that we identified?
Ooh.
And it kicked it out for me. Who do you think it is?
Richard Branson.
Sir Richard Branson?
Richard Branson, yeah.
It was, in fact, an explorer. It was not, in fact, though, Sir Richard Branson. Ernest Shackleton was who Copilot came up with as most representing the qualities that we identified.
You're talking about the Irish Navy guy?
The Antarctic explorer, Shackleton?
Yeah.
So accountability, took own outcomes without excuses, compartmentalized, managed fear and disappointment, had a growth mindset, was agile, grit, the humanity, prioritized morale and dignity and belonging for his crew, coachability, adapted to the circumstances around him, had a natural explorer mindset.
That's powerful. Yeah. Talk about a survival story. I'm going to have to study Ernest Shackleton. Thanks for the draft pick discussion.
Absolutely. And I'd like to ask the listeners, hey, as you do the challenge that Susan gave you, where you do your draft assessment, let us know some of your draft picks, or what are the things that you would look for in a teammate, or what are the areas that you're going to work on for yourself? So
I dig it. We're on our 11th episode. Look out, world.
Hey, just want to thank everyone for joining us here today on Imperfect, Better After Broken. I'm Jeff Servello.
I'm Susan Hendrich.
And we'll see you next week. Please share our stories with people. Okay, I'll come up with my other ones as we're going.
I love it.
Let me see.
And what was it? The cracks, the scars, and the stories that make us stronger.
Yeah.